The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah, you can hit that. Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, October 10th, and today is National Angel Food Cake Day, Gretchen. National Cake Decorating Day, too, Gretchen. And National Handbag Day. It sounds like it's a girl's world today. It's also World Mental Health Day.
Jason, you just don't acknowledge us.
I just did.
Yeah.
That's also World Mental Health Day.
Handbag Day.
Mm-hmm. Handbag Day, exactly. National Walk to a Park Day and National Metric Day. And that's for the metric system, not metric compliance, you guys. I don't want anyone to get confused in here. But thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. Use that fancy little QR code right there in the top hand corner of your screen to see where we live on the internet. And we're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube. And now we are also on Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, and Facebook. So welcome if you are joining us from any of those audiences, but we are going to kick it off first with the feisty redheaded conservative. We're going to do ladies first today. Oh, yeah, and she's all dressed up in her all black Canny Fest hoodie, marketing
It's
the Humboldt
Navy,
region.
Jason.
It's Navy. Oh, it's Navy. Yeah. Oh, Navy. Mm-hmm. Navy. Go Navy. Mm-hmm. You know, Gretchen, we missed you on 10-4 because that was National Truck Drivers Day.
Oh, you know I love my truckers.
I know you do. We know you do. You just got to pull the horn down and be ready to roll. But nonetheless, she's the founder of Panoptic Strategies and our very own Washington Insider. It is none other than the Miss Gretchen Gailey.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Hi. How's it going, Saman?
Good.
How's it going, new guy?
That's Hirsch. Gretchen, that's Hirsch.
Hirsch, nice to meet you.
Yes, got to be polite, Gretchen, the new guy. She's always just trying to put down men.
We don't call her the feisty redhead for nothing, Hirsch. So,
I'm a poker. I'm a bear poker. All right, let's see here. My headline comes from Cowboy State Daily. A little different than my usual marijuana moment. Lumis says activist group claims she's pro-pot and anti-gun. A bold-faced lie. Many people in Wyoming may have glanced at their phones Thursday to see a surprising robo-text. In the message, a group known as Smart Approaches to Marijuana Action accuses Senator Cynthia Lumis of working with the New York Democratic State Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to legalize marijuana and cut away Second Amendment rights. Lumis has never publicly espoused either position. Cynthia Lumis is working overtime in D.C. to help Chuck Schumer legalize pot and roll back our Second Amendment rights, according to the text. Anti-drug groups and the gun owners of America have come out against what she's doing. The Sam Robo text tells people to ask Lumis why is she working so hard for the Democrats. Spokesperson for Lumis told Cowboy State Daily on Friday that the text is a bold-faced lie. Senator Lumis is interested in getting things done for the people of Wyoming and protecting our gun and energy industries, not pandering to out-of-state special interest groups that know nothing about Wyoming, according to her spokesman. Sam did not respond to the Cowboy State Daily's request for comment. Is Lumis pro-marijuana? Well, Lumis recently co-sponsored legislation with Montana Republican Senator Steve Daines to ensure that neither President Joe Biden's administration nor any other future president can circumvent Congress to change marijuana laws at the federal level. According to its website, Sam Action is a nonprofit dedicated to promoting healthy marijuana policies that do not legalize drugs. The group is based in Washington, D.C., and its website is still under construction. Shocker. It's not clear what the group's connections to Wyoming are, but it does have a pilot project in nearby Colorado known as the Marijuana Accountability Coalition. According to a recent report from the Congressional Research Service, the Drug Enforcement Administration has signaled it will follow a recommendation issued by the Department of Health and Human Services and the Food and Drug Administration to reclassify marijuana from a Schedule I to a Schedule III substance under the Controlled Substances Act. If approved, this would significantly lower federal marijuana penalties. Lumis deferring Executive Authority Act would require congressional review of the rules rescheduling marijuana. In a September press release, Lumis took a skeptical perspective towards Biden's marijuana approach and said these types of changes should be made by Congress. The Biden administration rush to reschedule marijuana without compelling scientific evidence appears to be political, not about what's best for the American people, according to her. Is she anti-Second Amendment? Well, a representative for Second Amendment advocacy group Gun Owners of America vehemently denied any connection with the text and said his group sent a cease and desist letter to Sam on Friday, ordering the lobbying group to stop mentioning GOA in its lobbying schemes that it considers unprecedented. It's so unprecedented, it kind of caught us off guard, but we have issued a cease and desist and threatened legal action, said Mark Jones, a Wyoming-based lobbyist for Gun Owners of America. We're not happy about our name being used in something we didn't approve. As far as the Second Amendment criticisms, Jones suspects Sam is referencing Lumis's Safer Banking Act, which is designed to protect energy companies and gun manufacturers from many environmental and social governance initiatives. Although Jones said, as currently written, the bill does have some loopholes that could be used to harm and overregulate the firearm industry, he said Lumis has been an active and supportive partner on closing them. She's working with us to try and fix it. We're not adversarial with her right now at all, and we did not sanction that language in this robo-text. Lumis has an A+ rating from the National Shooting Sports Foundation, and in 2022 received an A from the National Rifle Association. According to the New York Times, she has received $19,000 from the NRA during her congressional career. Last year, she opposed legislation expanding background checks on firearms. Jones said his group has no concerns about where Lumis stands on Second Amendment issues and has never experienced a lobbying group misrepresent his group's position to further their own cause so blatantly before. We haven't seen anything like this in a long time, Jones said. This is pretty unusual for a lobbying group to go out on a limb and include another lobbying group without having clear discussions and agreements ahead of time. I think this is fun and entertaining to see this getting people all riled up in Wyoming. You don't mess with someone's gun rights in Wyoming, so I could see why Sam would want to put this out there. But this just proves to us how much more we need to be in the game and fighting for people like Senator Lumis, who voted in favor of safe banking to get it out of committee just a week or so ago. So we need to be backing our people because other people are coming for them. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
Yes, 100%. Some people, please send Senator Lumis some money because she is a supporter. And hold on a second, Gretchen. I want to make sure that I'm understanding this right. Yes. She is being attacked by the anti-gun lobby. Am I correct on that?
No.
Then who?
She's. Did you hear a word I said?
I heard all the words that you said.
She's being attacked by Sam. Smart approach.
Oh, Project Sam. Of course she's being attacked by Project Sam. Of course.
And they're accusing her of being anti-gun.
Well, I mean, Project Sam accusing anybody of anything.
I'm guessing Section 10 in the Safe Banking Act does have loopholes around guns and stuff. You could also make the argument that if you're pushing for medical cannabis and gun rights are denied, as we know, you could be anti-gun, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
that's what they're pushing.
I would say anybody that is trying to impede on the Second Amendment is anti-gun, as far as I'm concerned.
But she's not.
I understand that. She's not impeding on the Second Amendment, though. She's being attacked by Project Sam.
She is.
Yes, because there's Operation Choke Point language in there.
Yes, and while I agree with Jason Beck and send money, but you don't have to
look at
send
that.
money.
I'd send her some money.
No, not necessary all the time.
Send her
I'm
some
sure
money.
I'm sure she'd appreciate it.
Wyoming-
However, you can also shut up, Jason. You can send her your thanks. You can call up the office and say, "Thank you for supporting safe banking." I mean, members care about that shit. You'd be amazed at how many care. Oh, someone's actually paying attention to what I'm doing on this. Maybe I'm going to care more about marijuana. It's important.
Don't they care
if
more
they know
about
that you're watching them?
Don't they care more if it's their constituents that are calling to say that, as opposed to
Sure,
just
but it
average
doesn't
people?
matter.
Okay.
So, if they are getting notice for an issue, it matters.
If you send her $5,
everyone's
she's
gonna
going to
look
notice
into it.
that a lot more than a phone call.
I don't know about $5, but
And while you're at it, send $5 to high9news.com.
Oh, they can do that. They can just go in the super chat and do that, Saman.
Oh, they
Make
just
it-
go
make
in the
it real
super chat.
easy.
Make it easy. Yeah, make it easy on you.
you
I
could
mean-
go to the support Gretchen Gailey. Jason Beck doesn't pay his bets fund.
Yeah,
Give him
right.
some
Jason
money
pays all of
to
his
pay
bets.
up.
What's the tally, Gretchen?
Dude, it's like at
How
least
many
400 or
hundreds?
500 at this point.
Yeah, right. Gretchen, stop the
Dude,
cap.
there are so many bets you have not paid on.
Stop the cap. Most of the bets haven't even been fulfilled yet.
Bullshit.
They're still all open ended.
I know they're not.
Yeah.
They're open ended in your cute little Mar-a-Lago mind. Just
Mar-a-Lago
like Trump, you
2030s,
think
girl.
everything is
2030
open ended.
is coming
Laws
down.
and bets are all open minded, and you orange loving people's minds.
Oh man, I did wear orange today for you, Gretchen.
I saw it. You're
Yeah.
in solidarity with your man who's going to be wearing orange for the rest of his life.
No, stop the cap. He's going to be your next president. But we do have Hirsch joining us today, and it's Hirsch's first time joining us on the show. Hirsch, you've witnessed all the antics this morning already out of Gretchen. What do you think about this?
First, you can send me some money if you don't want to send Senator Lumis some money. I think Gretchen sort of summed it up well. My main takeaway is that, Sam continues to show its dishonesty, and this is just the latest example of it. And the fact that they were called out not only by a United States senator, but by another sort of lobbying organization just speaks to just the dishonesty they inject into the cannabis debate.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure. The misinformation of Project Sam.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
You know what else is frustrating?
Go for it, Gretchen.
And seriously, where are the other advocacy groups in Washington backing her up? Where's USCC? Where's NCIA? Where's NCR? Where's all these people who are in the industry out there supporting her?
Well, if they get in, then they're going to take the $5, Gretchen. So it's like,
No, they don't
No,
need
they're
to
not.
take the $5.
No, they're
they
not.
need to show support.
They need to come out with a letter of support condemning the remarks of Project Sam and saying that they stand in solidarity with this senator and that we thank her for her support of safer banking. That's all I need to say.
Truly,
That's it.
I know it may sound silly to offer support, but you're asking a senator in a very conservative state to offer support to an unpopular issue in her state.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's sticking her neck out. And so if she sees that there's support, either it's financially or just, hey, you're doing the right thing, please keep going, we need you. That matters to these people. It really does.
And I also heard you mention, Gretchen, that she is, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I probably messed this up, but she's the one that introduced the language to also not allow the administration to reschedule cannabis. Am I correct on that? On what you said?
Correct.
Man,
Yes.
This lady, you guys need to send her some money because she is actually fighting for the industry more than most of these Democrats that say that they're for the industry.
Well, I mean,
I'm just saying.
It could not be a great thing to go through Congress for this move either. However, she's being a good conservative and saying, I don't need these assholes creating laws and regulating. That's not the job of these different groups. It's not the FDA's job to make up laws. It's the job of Congress.
I like this
And
lady.
I agree with her on that point.
I'm going to send her some money. I'm personally going to
Send her some money.
I am.
I agree that she deserves a lot of credit. I mean, as we all know, Wyoming is one of 3 or 4 states that has no cannabis program whatsoever. So the fact that she's willing to stick her neck out here, I mean, she deserves a lot of credit for this position.
100%.
Yeah, Wyoming has a hemp program that they've had for a few years, and I think that a lot of this is coming up because everyone understands that cannabis has been used as a pejorative, and it's really just it's the undefined nature of the difference between cannabis and hemp at this federal level creates so much confusion, and it creates a lot of pitfalls for a lot of businesses. And so in Wyoming, I mean, Wyoming is one of the last holdouts, but it's also one of the places in the country that really sticks to their guns on liberty and individual kind of sovereignty of their people. And when people want to conduct business and conduct commerce, and the federal government is impeding that, it makes it hard. So I'm glad that they're the ones that are taking the lead, but it's kind of crazy because all these other states that have had such long history with cannabis commerce, they're doing the least. So let's go Wyoming. I'm down. Powder River, let her buck.
Oh,
And-
yeah. Oh, go ahead, Gretchen.
Well, I appreciate this one last word, and this is not to denigrate, Senator Lumis at all. While I appreciate her support, let's not forget why we're getting her support. She's a member of the Senate Banking Committee. Now, if she was not a member of Senate Banking, would she be out there talking about this? Probably not.
It's all right. I'm not mad. But she's
I'll
out
take
there.
a win where I get it.
Exactly. I'll take the win. I'm not gonna downplay her actions in this. We need to uplift her, and we need to make sure that she has our support, and especially our financial support. And on that, we're gonna go to a commercial, and we're gonna be right back.
Relying on 25 years of commercial hydroponic experience, King Solomon Nutrients has engineered the best liquid and dry fertilizer products for cannabis that preserves the crop, the soil, and the environment. Through relentless passion, research, and innovation, King Solomon has developed simplified cannabis crop nutrition you can trust. It was created for farmers, by farmers. Don't mess around. Try the crown.
Oh yeah, guys. I'm gonna roll right into my story. I hope, or at least one of my stories, Gretchen. Just for the record, one of them. But let me tell you something. What Thailand's new coalition government means for the cannabis market. Oh, yes. More than a year after Thailand legalized adult use marijuana, the country's new prime minister plans to roll back that law and attempt to end the current glut in the market and bring long-term benefits to the industry. In June of 2022, the Southeast Asian nation became the first in Asia to decriminalize the cannabis plant, allowing it to be grown and consumed freely. Since then, the weed market has turned free-for-all as various businesses enter the sector with little regulatory or consumer guidance to oversee such activity. Thai cities are now home to scores of dispensaries, many of which sell adult use products containing more than the legal amount of 0.2 THC, which is the highest limit allowed. Moreover, not every shop has required licenses, and while the law stipulates that cannabis can only be consumed by individuals aged 20 and above, that's not always enforced. All this has sparked major backlash from locals who have been calling for a tighter legislation. In a recent interview with Bloomberg, Prime Minister Serding, I'm not even going to try to murder his name, but it looks like Sarithra something, who took office last month, said his administration would limit cannabis use to medical purposes only. And in a quote, "The law will need to be rewritten," Sunartha says. "It needs to be rectified. We have that regulated for medical use only," he said. Speaking separately to Reuters, he said drug abuse is a problem for the country and that he disagreed with adult use of cannabis. Many industry experts say they welcome stricter laws because it would help avoid an oversupply in the market and end the misconceptions of cannabis as a recreational drug rather than a medical substance. Traditional Thai medicine has long used cannabis as an ingredient in various remedies for holistic health, and in a quote, "As it stands, the market is oversaturated with cannabis that hasn't undergone proper lab testing," explained Sarat, and president at Greenhead Clinic, a traditional medical clinic in Phuket. Or Phuket, whatever you guys want to call it. This oversupply has resulted in a substantial drop in prices, down by 50 to 60% since we first began. If stricter regulations are implemented, it could potentially restore credibility and control to the industry, he said. Presently, the market is quite chaotic, with many not adhering to any standardized rules. He expects an outright ban on vape products, plus extractions like oil and wax. Cannabis shops may also have to deliver mandatory monthly sales reports to monitor the type of products being sold and to whom, he added. In a quote, he says, "I foresee a crackdown on unlicensed pop-up shops that currently evade taxes and bypass necessary quality controls and registration process," he said. Sounds like Thailand's New York. The industry would like to see clear regulations, and they want it restricted for medical purposes, echoed Sonariak Volmusikov, an associate professor specializing in plant sciences at Bangkok Chowkugakorn University. Deputy Prime Minister Antun Shivakukarul, leader of the Bahumatai Party and one of Saritha's coalition partners, was a key figure responsible for legalizing adult-use cannabis. At the time, he strongly believed that decriminalizing would benefit the population, but he since called for tighter industry monitoring amid the ongoing debate and over unregulated usage. Ultimately, though, he said he does not wish for the marijuana plant to be reclassified as a drug. And Tuan, who is also the country's health minister, will not let cannabis return to the narcotic list. Shamardatok said there would be a way to compromise the regulators to minimize aggressive feedback among coalition parties. With cannabis now in wide circulation, often for hedonistic purposes, health experts say that's deterred some patients from using it for medical purposes. Currently, many outlets claim to be medical cannabis platforms, but they often prioritize profits rather than patient health, and a number of clinics told CNBC that diminishes the reputation of the legitimate facilities as the lines blur between clinics and dispensaries. And this line goes on and on and on, but they are talking about rolling back all of the stuff that they have going on in Thailand. They're not going to allow for vape pens or concentrates, and they also want your flower to actually be like hemp flower and have no kick to it. And this is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News. What do y'all think about this? Really silence, huh?
Man, I mean,
Is this surprising?
What do we say?
What do we say? I mean, what are they going to do? What are they going to do
Well,
with
I
all
mean,
that weed that's being grown out there, though, once they roll back all these protections?
Well, what's going to happen is they're just trying to limit the out of the country the import market that's causing all this glut in Thailand, and I can understand that, but the issue is, I think that Thailand's like it's a tourist hotspot for tourists from all over the globe, people coming from everywhere just to be able to smoke pot. So I think their whole line of sight on this is like what's happening with the tourists coming there. But Thailand's been kind of historically the place that people come to do crazy shit. So I don't know if I don't know kind of what's behind this. It seems like there's more to this story. It might be some kind of political and money wielding behind the scenes that's really driving this. But that's been the issue, is we just don't know what's going to happen with Thailand, Southeast Asia. There's a lot of countries that are just anti-cannabis, but I know that the proliferation of the cannabis has happened. I had a friend that was traveling through Jakarta, and he said, "Hey, you can find cannabis in Malaysia as well." So I see this as kind of just pandering a little bit to the people that want to stop it, and they're just trying to slow it down or just throw up some roadblocks to just say, "Hey, we're doing something." But from the beginning, they said no concentrates, and I don't think that there's any new information there, but we'll see what happens. So I really don't know what to think about.
Do you think one of the reasons is that they're banning concentrates and vape pens is because most of the hardware for that comes from China?
I don't think so. I think vapes in general, I think are an issue in Thailand, but they have big drug problems in Thailand that they're trying to quell. Cannabis is not a real issue for their society. They have bigger societal issues, but again, it's like when you have foreigners coming to the country to start businesses, things get complicated.
Well, they generally want that because they generally want foreign investment to invest in their company or to invest in their businesses out there. So then that way they're like super productive and can actually hit the market.
Yeah,
but these countries, like Saman says, they are uber conservative. So I don't know why this is a shocker that the market is not behaving in the way that they had hoped, and so they're like, "All right, F it, shut it down."
I'm just basically
surprising.
I'm just basically saying Thailand is basically Asia's New York. All right, they've spilled too much sand all over the beach,
and so now they're like, "F it, close it down."
Yeah, they're not going to be able
New York,
to do that.
who's letting it run rampant.
They're not going to be able to close it down. That's my point. New York's never going to be able to close it down either.
New York's letting everything run rampant. I mean, New York just does not have their shit together. I think Thailand probably has their shit together more than New York.
You do, really?
Yeah, I think Thailand is going to be able to bring the hammer a lot more than they would in the U.S.
That's because they're not afraid to execute
Our
people.
Constitution and stuff.
That's because they're a monarchy.
Exactly.
Yeah, because they're not afraid to execute people. What do you think about this, Hirsch? You do a lot of work on the regulation side.
Yeah, I mean, I think your comparison to New York is really apt. I would say my takeaways are two things. One, this shows that progress does not happen in one direction. It's not a given. You can liberalize your approach towards cannabis, but then there can be a backlash. And I think, we on this call are all very, pro cannabis, but there's large parts of many societies that aren't. And so the takeaway that I have is that if we want to make the rest of society, comfortable with cannabis, we have to be thoughtful about the way we roll it out. And there's the risk sometimes that if you roll it out in a certain way, it could confirm some of the worst fears and suspicions about cannabis. I think that's true in New York and in Thailand. So that's one thought. But my other thought is what you were saying, Jason, which is you can't put the genie back in the bottle, right? Mm-hmm. Thailand may attempt to sort of control and regulate this, but they won't be able to make cannabis fully illegal again. And so this still represents progress. When you establish that this should be legal, it's really hard to really fully recriminalize it, which is obviously a good thing.
Yeah, and like they're not even able to like really enforce on it as it is now, and so I just man, oh man. But I'll tell you what though, Hirsch, I prefer to roll it up as opposed to rolling it out.
Ha!
I'm with you, bro.
Yes,
I'm with you.
Yes. Gretchen,
don't encourage him.
Yeah, Gretchen got a sigh. As long as I get a sigh out of Gretchen, I'm already winning for the day right there.
Hirsch, I was liking you for a second. That's gone.
Oh man, we're gonna roll. We're gonna keep this train rolling. We're gonna roll right into Hirsch. He's first time joining us today. Hirsch is working for so many different people. I don't even know who to say that you're working for right now, Hirsch. Who would you say that you're working for?
Well, I do a bunch of private work, but maybe the most important thing is I'm on the board of Cal Normal. That's really important to me. Patient rights centered organization. So there's a bunch of stuff I do, but that's probably what I'm most proud of.
He's
the work I do with
board member of Cal Normal and often talks to regulators and was recently teaching a class at the University of Virginia for all of their law students about cannabis law. That's right. It is Mr. Hirsch Jain with his debut premiere on High at 9 News.
Awesome. Well, thanks. Should I just jump into it?
Yeah, you just roll right into it, bro. Roll right into your story.
Cool. Well, so my story is about Ohio. And so Ohio early voting starts tomorrow for the ballot initiative they have in November. Today is the voter registration deadline. So if there's anyone out there from Ohio or who knows anyone in Ohio, make sure you're registered to vote. Today is the deadline. Early voting starts tomorrow. Ohio will have a adult use ballot measure on the ballot in November. I'm going to tell you why I think this is a really big deal. If Ohio votes to pass this measure, it would be the 24th state to legalize adult use cannabis. And obviously that gets us closer to that tipping point of 25. So that's exciting because it would be state number 24. And, there's a lot of people out there who have noted that, there have been some cannabis ballot measures that have been unsuccessful recently that are sort of off cycle. People may remember that Oklahoma rejected a ballot measure earlier this year. Last year, North Dakota and South Dakota rejected ballot measures. And so there's some concern about this ballot measure since it's an off cycle election. But I think turnout is going to be very high. What's on the ballot this November is both abortion rights and cannabis legalization. And I know people have different views on those those topics, but those are two issues that really drive turnout. So I think what's exciting is we're going to see a lot of turnout this November. And my prediction is that the ballot initiative is going to pass. And the reason I think that's so exciting is Ohio is a huge state. There's 12 million people in Ohio. So if this ballot measure passes in November, then 55% of Americans will live in a state that has legalized adult use. I mean, that's a pretty big deal, 55%. And I think the other thing to note about Ohio is that it borders a bunch of prohibition states. So it's a big state, but we're also going to see huge traffic into Ohio if an adult use measure passes. I mean, if you really think about it, Pittsburgh, for example, is practically in Ohio. You know, Cincinnati, right, the northern Kentucky suburbs right outside Cincinnati are practically in Ohio. So from Indiana and West Virginia and Pennsylvania and other states, you're going to see a lot of cross-border traffic, just like we've seen in Missouri. So I think it'll be a really successful state. And, you know, a couple more reasons I think to get excited about it is not only will Ohio sales likely be strong because you're going to see a bunch of people driving in from other states, but it'll also start to put pressure on a bunch of other states. So if Ohio legalizes this November, then Pennsylvania will be surrounded by 5 different states that have legalized adult use. And we have seen that when you get surrounded, kind of like the way New Hampshire has been surrounded, that really starts to change the adult use conversation. And there will also be a number of, you know, states in the Midwest, red states, that will border multiple adult use states as a result. So states like Indiana and West Virginia, for example, and Kentucky, they will all border three adult use states. So it could really affect those neighboring states. And finally, I'll just state the obvious. You know, Ohio is a big red state. You know, it's the quintessential Midwestern red state. It's kind of like center-right America, Midwestern America. That's what Ohio represents. And it would be the first time in history that we've had a big red state legalize adult use. I mean, sure, we've seen Montana go adult use, and we've seen Alaska go adult use. Those are kind of smaller states. We've seen Missouri, which is a decently sized state. But Ohio is a big red state. And so I think this will send a message to GOP legislators across the country about where their voters are. And the prediction I'm going to make is that this ballot measure is going to pass by a healthy margin, you know, 55, 56, 57%. We'll come back in a month and see if I'm right or wrong. But if that's the case, I think that'll really show where center-right America is on cannabis. The last thing I'll say about Ohio, the reason it's a big deal, I mean, we talked about sales, we talked about neighboring states, the fact that it's a big red state. It's also home to 2 U.S. senators that I think we should be paying attention to. So Sherrod Brown, who's the chair of the Senate Banking Committee and who has sort of been shepherding safe banking. I know we could spend a lot of time talking about that bill, but he's sort of in charge of it right now. And so I think this would put more pressure on him. And also someone like J.D. Vance, the Republican from Ohio. And I think of him a lot like Josh Hawley, who is the, Republican senator from Missouri. Young, new senator, sort of, mixes it up in some of the cultural debates that we have in this country. Josh Hawley didn't used to be pro-cannabis, but then Missouri legalized cannabis and has this really robust cannabis economy, and suddenly he's quiet on the issue. And I think similarly, J.D. Vance is not someone who really likes quote-unquote drugs. He's often talking about drugs in San Francisco. But I think a really healthy sort of vote in Ohio could change his attitude on the subject. So those are all the reasons that I think it's a really big deal. And I'll just say again, the last day to register to vote in Ohio is today. You should make sure that you're registered, and early voting starts tomorrow.
Swag like Ohio. Man. What do you think, Gretchen?
All right. Well, first off, I have some qualms with your geography there.
All right, here we go.
Cincinnati suburbs matter because, yes, Cincinnati's in Ohio. So I don't know where you're coming with that one.
Oh, I was saying the northern Kentucky suburbs. So there's.
I gotcha. And Pittsburgh is my hometown. Love Pittsburgh. I do think you will see some folks because it's roughly 60 miles from Pittsburgh to Ohio. You got to go through West Virginia first, but it's next door, and they are willing to drive for places. I am not so certain that it's gonna pass with the healthy margin that you're looking for. I would love to see it pass that way. But when it was rejected before in 2015, it was 65 to 35 when it lost. Now, everyone knows when they tried to legalize before, that was a piece of shit. Like, nobody, I mean, even, the cannabis advocates came out against that piece of legislation when they tried to do that one. I do believe people will come out for an abortion year. Absolutely. Cannabis, I don't think cannabis brings the voters out to the polls. I really don't, especially in an off year. You're going to get old people at those polls. And like you say, Ohio is conservative. Perhaps they will go for it. I think you're going to see a much smaller margin. I think if it's going to pass, it's going to pass by the skin of its teeth at like 51%. As for Pennsylvania, I love your... What?
I said if only those senior citizens knew how good cannabis was for them, then they would.
They're getting there. They're getting there.
The ones in Florida do.
JD Vance is a douchebag, number one. He's laughed me out of his office. He has no interest in cannabis whatsoever.
That's because I haven't had a conversation with him, Gretchen.
Okay, you work on that. You see how you do with that.
I got this.
With that, bro. I hate JD Vance. Sherrod Brown, he's not terrible, but he's just wanted to get St. Baking out of his committee and out of his hair, frankly. I don't see him as a great lover of it. I think Dave Joyce is really going to have to get out there and do some major lobbying to get other lawmakers on board in Ohio. As for Pennsylvania, my home state, we suck. I don't think Ohio legalizing is going to push our lawmakers to do anything. I mean, it took them forever to let you buy beer in a grocery store. Pennsylvania I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. But I like your thoughtful analysis. It's a breath of fresh air, Hirsch, to hear somebody who has actual insights and knowledge come on this show. I'm falling in love with you.
You're so funny,
I'm
Gretchen.
so smitten with somebody who actually knows something.
I feel offended.
Unlike Jason Beck, well, Saman, you only know about old ladies and saying hi again.
Well, I appreciate that, Gretchen.
I appreciate your analysis. I do. I think it'll help in Kentucky.
I want to make
Pennsylvania.
I want to make a friendly bet with you, right? So,
here we go.
I think it's going to pass with more than 55%, and you think it's going to be less. And so, the loser, we're going to make a trip to Oz, Jason's dispensary, and the loser buys the winner.
Washington D.C. That's a hike.
Well,
don't worry. We'll be at an event. We'll all be together. And I think we
got Vegas coming up. So
I think basically the bet would be this: is you guys are betting $100, okay, on this, and with the money, y'all have to go and buy some weed from my store with that $100. I think that sounds like a fair bet right there.
No, because not like Jason Beck wins. Fuck that.
Not really, Gretchen. You stand
I don't
to
like
win.
That indoor booth. No, I don't. Do you sell outdoor?
I do sell outdoor too. Yeah, it's cheaper. You can actually get more jars for your $100, Gretchen.
Sweet. Yes, I'm happy to take that bet. I don't think it's gonna pass with more than
Gretchen.
55.
I'm gonna put that quote on your grave. I don't like that indoor booth.
I don't like that indoor booth.
So
I don't like that indoor booth.
Just to clarify on this bet, just so everyone's on the same page. So what you're saying is that Hirsch, is that you're betting that it will pass by a majority of 55% or more?
That is my bet.
And that's what the bet is. And so if it passes by 54.9%, then you lose, correct?
I
lose. And then in Vegas, I'll buy Gretchen some weed or a drink or whatever if it's 54.9 or lower.
Oh, man. Look at that, Gretchen.
All right.
Get out the vote.
Get out the vote. You might be
my
getting
first
a free dinner.
drink in Vegas.
I'm actually, I actually happen to agree with Gretchen on this. I don't think it's going to pass by 55% in Ohio, but we'll see. I'm happy to watch and
I hope
popcorn.
they do. I hope the early vote matters. I don't, but
early vote don't matter. Oh,
I've spent many an election night in Ohio in my previous life.
All right, well, we're gonna go to a commercial. We're gonna be right back. The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you hit that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. YouTube will appreciate it too. And even you will feel better about yourself once you do it. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you have not already. And make sure you can read all the articles that we cover today on our website at www.highat9news.com. And make sure to tell a friend because organic growth is the best growth.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Well, maybe you two have the same
But I always sound
issues.
good. I always sound
Maybe you two
Saman
just have the
always sounds good.
same issues. But coming up next, we have Mr. Saman Razani. He is a cannabis formulator, a scientist, and a cultivation layer outer. On top of that, he also
What the hell does that mean?
a layer outer. You know, they lay out the site plan. You know what I'm saying? They layer out or how it's
know
going
what
to
you
look,
use,
how it's
Saman?
going to function, how
No,
the workflow is going to work.
I definitely don't do anything with cultivation. But Jason's
Stop
good.
Stop it, bro. I've seen you design
Jason doesn't
multiple
believe
facilities.
in facts. Hirsch, you're going to learn this right quick. Jason doesn't believe in facts.
I've watched Saman lay out numerous cultivation facilities, so that is 100% BS.
Okay. All right, Jason,
okay.
I haven't decided. F it. I'm out of here. No facts.
No. Hirsch
Jason's right.
Hirsch had to stop at 9:45. That was already a well-known thing when he came on. But it is Saman, the man who reminds women over 50 how to say hello again. It is Mr. Saman Razani.
Thank you. Where's my clap?
There you go.
All right. So just for the record, yes, I have designed some cultivation facilities, but that's not my actual forte. It's manufacturing, but that's okay. You can say whatever you want, Jason, because it doesn't really matter. I'm awesome, and that's all that matters. So here we go, guys.
Get it.
We're getting into a story from Minnesota. Shout out to all my Minnesota peeps. Sugar Mag out there, you my dog, and my boy Willie Mobley, who just received his Minnesota cannabis license from the state. So here we go. Minnesota, inside a co-working space in Minneapolis Monday night, 24 people took attentive notes and followed a presentation as an instructor taught the basics: how many cannabis plants they're allowed to grow and what they will need to do it. The class was a home growing boot camp, educating people on the new law legalizing marijuana this summer. And demand for other courses like it is increasing because Minnesotans eager to tap into the newly legal industry want to learn more, said Tanner Barris, president of the Minnesota Cannabis College. We've been having people calling us pretty much every hour of the day asking, hey, I want to become part of this industry. I want to start a business. I'm looking for a job or just want some sort of more information and learn about growing at home. So it's really been sort of us trained to So it's really been sort of us trained to be able to meet their demand, Barris said. The college isn't an accredited program. It's a nonprofit that began a few years ago when hemp products were first popping up in the state. But Barris said it's been able to expand because of marijuana legalization. The group's goal is to support entrepreneurs who want to become part of the industry and equip them with the training that they need to succeed. Soon there will be classes on business management, cannabis cultivation, and bud tending for people who want to sell weed in retail stores, which is probably the most important. There won't be dispensaries except for some tribal nations until at least early 2025 as the new state officials tasked with oversight gets it up and running. But in the meantime, Minnesotans can grow up to 8 plants in their home as of August 1st, which prompted the Minnesota Cannabis College to offer a class on how to do it, though their main focus is on the business of cannabis. I think my biggest surprise has been that the number of people that are actually wanting to take the affirmative step of starting their own business, he explained. We've had people reach out that, yes, are cannabis enthusiasts, but also people that don't use cannabis themselves who have just been prior business entrepreneurs and see this as a new opportunity that they are looking for more information about sort of how to become part of that industry. Barris told WCCO his group has entirely booked most of its classes it has offered to date. Some are free, but others have a fee to join. St. Cloud State University is the first state school to offer an online certificate in cannabis education. It's a 24-week non-credited program with 4 areas of study: cannabis agriculture and horticulture, cannabis compliance and risk management, business of cannabis, and cannabis healthcare and medicine. Those enrolled can learn at their own pace with fully online classes. When we knew that the law was going to be passed and signed by the governor, we heard about that in the spring. We thought to ourselves, how can we be innovative? What bold approach can we take to help offer not just the St. Cloud community, but really to the entire state, an opportunity to really advance themselves in the cannabis industry? Abraham Hedke, Executive Director of Professional and Continuing Education at the school, told WCCO in a recent interview. He said interest in the program and enrollment surpassed expectation in its first week of opening enrollment. A couple dozen began class in September, and another group will begin November 8th. Cannabis agriculture and horticulture will focus on the study of the plant itself. It is the most popular. Minnesota is the 23rd state to legalize cannabis for recreational use among adults, and has it's had a medical program for years. This is Saman Razani reporting for High at 9 News. Guys, what do you think about this? About continuing the educational pathway in Minnesota?
That they're continuing education. I mean, the reality is we are creating a new workforce in this country, and a lot of those people need to be trained. There need to be quality training places for this, and like adequate curriculums that actually teach people what they need to know, as opposed to what people just think they should know.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a good place to start. Education is obviously key, but I mean, what about the non-accredited status? I mean, these are St. Cloud University is kind of a big deal, and for them to have this program, I think, is a big deal. But what do you think about a national accredited program, Gretchen? Where can we expect to see this first, from your knowledge?
You're on mute, Gretchen.
You're on mute.
The dogs. Who let the dogs out?
Yeah, the dogs get nuts. I mean, there are various courses in many universities across the country. I think it is difficult to do, though, when you have a state-by-state regulations for everything. Sure, you can teach some basics, but it's hard to teach the rules to everybody when they're different every state.
Well, at the same time, too, because of federal funding and whatnot, wouldn't cannabis need to be somewhat legalized in order for there to be a accredited system in place?
You keep saying that, Jason. However, there are plenty of universities who've been doing research projects and providing cannabis classes who have yet to have their federal funding pooled.
Well, I mean, they don't have industry training classes. They have research.
They're not necessarily all research. I mean, there are definitely ones that. What kind of class are you looking for? Like,
show me a trade school.
Class?
Show me a trade school, or show
no, I'm
me.
Serious. Like, what
I'm
kind
serious.
do you want?
Yeah.
Do you want
Yeah.
cultivation, processing? What are you looking for?
Any of those, and I'll take any of those.
Okay. Humboldt State. And I don't even know if they still go by Humboldt State. Aren't they like California Poly now?
I thought they were Cal Davis.
No. I'm talking about the one up in Humboldt.
Cal Davis isn't Humboldt.
No, it's not. Anyway, I'm trying to think. There, some of the HBCUs have been starting programs, I know, in the hemp side of things, and not just business programs. But then there's the whole argument between cannabis and hemp, yada yada.
See.
Don't give me C, Jason. You don't speak from any wealth of knowledge.
Yes,
what are you talking about?
I am a wealth of knowledge.
SUNY, I know, has programs. The Cornell school, I know, but the Cornell one is a business program.
Okay.
I'm thinking.
Denver University has a law program as well, but I mean, like, what about
law program is non-plant touching as far as I'm concerned. I'm like, I want to see like a school where like you're actually like growing weed in their horticulture space or something like that.
The University of Mississippi.
Yeah. Grow all that boof weed. They don't grow anything stronger than THC Delta 6 because it comes.
I mean, when Pennsylvania set up their licensing, they called it super licenses, and there were 8 of these years ago, and those went to the universities in the state to allow for research and to look into various things. I do not know all of their easy killer. I don't know what all of their research projects are, but to suggest that they're just possibly for medical or something, no, they could be looking at different growing things and all sorts of different.
They can be doing all that, but they're not teaching people growing methods and how to operate in a actual work environment. So there again, I guess I'm right.
Can you go to like? No, you're not. You're never right, Jason Beck.
100%.
What's wrong with just no offense, being a botanist? I mean, I know a lot
there's
of folks
there's nothing the matter with it.
Who are cultivators who have botany degrees.
I think that's a fabulous way to go, and I think that does make a lot of sense. I'm all for that. I'm not trying to poo-poo on any of that.
I mean, I also know biochemists who are processors. I mean, why does everything have to be so cannabis specific?
Look, his story is
if
cannabis
you have
specific.
The background in. No, that's my question to you, Saman. Does it have to be cannabis specific if cannabis is starting to be added into curriculums that already exist?
Well, cannabis is really different than a lot of different plant medicines. You know, there's a lot of information and a lot of research that hasn't been done yet. So yeah, I mean, the specificity in the core of cannabis is probably necessary, I would say. But yeah, I mean, like, I have family members who are, biochemists, and they work for, pharmaceutical companies. And so like the discussions being had there. And I think like that, I think it's an incubation thing. But if a university does it first, it makes it a little, just a little more common sense to me than having a private company just,
Sure.
Bring in professionals and try to like, create products or whatever, and the justification behind that. It's
well, and again, I can't speak to specific research. We know University of Louisiana. That's how they're doing it down in Louisiana. Everything's going through the universities. I mean, so
Gretchen,
but the program is for people. The universities like.
I understand what you're looking for. I'm suggesting I don't have the knowledge to tell you whether or not they exist. Yeah. But to suggest that just because Jason Beck says so, doesn't mean that they don't.
They don't. But Gretchen, did you see what Dr. Mark said? He said, get a chemistry.
What did Dr. Mark say?
He said, get a chemistry degree. Chemists can do anything.
Okay.
Yeah, like make D8.
Yes.
Sure.
All right. We're gonna keep this whole thing rolling. I have an interesting story for you guys. I think you guys will find this pretty interesting. Okay.
Peachy, I gotta leave in 8 minutes. Jason Beck.
No problem.
8 minutes.
A marijuana breathalyzer hopes to help workplace screening. A new marijuana breathalyzer product has hit the market and is being billed as a way for employers to screen workers for on-duty marijuana use. Hound Labs, a California-based biotech company, is releasing the first commercial marijuana breathalyzer for employees to detect recent cannabis use in workers and as a way to deter workday use. New York was the first state to pass a law banning employers from testing workers for cannabis without signs of impairment as part of legalizing adult use cannabis. More than 2 years later, many say state laws lack clarity for employers and employees. The law allows employers to test workers if they reasonably suspect that a person is impaired by marijuana at work and they are showing obvious signs of use. Current tests, however, often detect marijuana use for up to 30 days prior, so it's difficult to determine whether someone is under the influence of cannabis or has simply consumed it in recent days. Hound Labs, a California-based biotechnology company, is releasing the first commercial marijuana breathalyzer for employers to detect recent cannabis use in workers as a way to deter workday use. New York was the first state to pass. So, nonetheless, Hound Labs hopes that its products will help employers reduce risks in the workplace due to cannabis impairment while maintaining employee recruitment and retention efforts by testing for a shorter window of cannabis use. And in a quote, since founding Hound Labs, we have witnessed shifts in legislative and cultural views regarding cannabis use, and employers have voiced their need for an objective testing solution, the company's co-founder Mike Lynn said in a statement. And employers can purchase the test from Hound Labs, and the company has sent hundreds of products to employers nationwide, they say. And that is it for Hound Labs. What do you think about this?
Jason, question. Does it say more? I'm sorry about the technology they're doing here. Because I wish Dr. Mark or someone was on here. Haven't many said breathalyzers before won't work?
Yeah, I don't think this is going to work. I think that they're using this piece to raise more money. And the reality of it is they're talking about it for employers. No California employer, I don't think, could actually legally use this test, seeing as how they have like the beer law at lunch, where you can have one beer, and so the equivalent to that is you could have one joint during your lunch break as long as you're not impaired. So
does it say somewhere you're allowed to have one joint?
It's the same equivalent.
No, I don't want to hear same equivalent. I'm asking, does a law actually exist? Something in writing that says you can have one?
I mean, basically, the fact that they're allowing you to have one beer in the labor code is the same thing, Gretchen.
Okay, try using these arguments in a court of law.
I'll use them in a court of law all day.
It's basically the same thing.
It's the same thing.
What are you talking about?
It's the same thing.
Is there a law or isn't there?
There's
yes
a law,
or no?
Gretchen. There's a law, Gretchen. There's lots of laws.
Okay, I would love you to please send me that law to see this law.
You want me to perform
find the statute.
My lawyer degrees, send it over to you?
100%. And maybe I should check the chat. I'm sure the chat knows what's actually going on.
Chat always knows what's going on. The chat is popping today.
Saman, what do you think?
I mean, I'm all about smoking joints on the job, you know? That's what we do all day. Smoke joints on the job. That's why I have this job.
What would you do? What would you do if you were an employee somewhere and your employer said, "Here, stick this in your mouth and blow," and basically, I want to know if you're high or not?
I would sue the employer because unless I did something
drug testing is allowed by many
private
places.
That's not drug, but that's not a drug test.
How is that not?
No, listen, hold on. That's not a drug test that's actually been determined as like equivalent of like a metabolite test from like urine. So you cannot say, hey, come blow into this thing, because it could not be accurate, and the results could end up with you losing your job. That's why they tell you to shut the fuck up on the side of the road when a cop pulls you over, and don't take a breathalyzer test, get a blood test, because breathalyzers are knowingly not exactly correct all the time. So
I understand that you shut the fuck up because those things aren't generally accurate, and you can fight it later and yada yada.
This is even less accurate.
Okay, well, here's all I'm saying. Is I understand that it's probably in your best interest to say no to these things or to shut the fuck up and yada yada. I get that. However, doesn't mean that they can't ask you to do it. That's not against the law.
I don't
know about that.
Unless it's in their employee handbook.
I think that's a state by state issue.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. If they have a stipulation that says any point we can, I mean, whenever I worked for the government, they could say, go pee in this cup. They could have said, go take a breath. They could have did whatever they wanted.
I could see that for people
in the rules. No, but I've also had private employees. I've had morality clauses in contracts before that, are open to, frankly, interpretation. So when you sign on to these things, to say that employer absolutely cannot ask you to do this is, I think, leading people down the wrong road.
I just think that we need to realize that cannabis use in general it's not as impairing as alcohol, and I think that that's a big deal. And I think that there's got to be a lot more studies and comparisons on that. Just specifically alcohol and cannabis. And they've done they have the drunk driving courses where they give you the beer goggles and they make you get behind the wheel and drive through the cone thing. I mean, they've done that with cannabis years ago. They did that. I think in Colorado they did that. And by and large, the cannabis drivers were much better at driving, impaired than the drivers who were consuming alcohol or impaired under alcohol or under the whatever the visual basis of that. So I don't know. I mean, it's just to me, it's just more BS. It's more of a chance that we can still get in trouble for consuming cannabis, and it bugs me. But,
I think these
hey,
lawyers are setting themselves up, or I think these employers are setting themselves up for a lot of legal liability. I think Hound Labs could have a lot of legal liability with this too.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be a lot of lawsuits.
Lawsuits for sure.
If people start to try to use this, I think there's going to be a lot of lawsuits. Yep. Well,
I think you know nothing, Jason Beck. Next.
Of course, you're always going to say
Wrap it
that. Of course, you're always going to say that. You're a hater. It's going to be okay, though.
I'm not a hater. I just actually understand the law
Okay.
a lot better than you do, apparently.
I don't believe that for a second.
Okay, wrap it up. Mama's got to go.
All right. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank you to all of our audience members tuning in, the chat, keeping it popping over there, and all of our supporters for learning what is the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Thank you to all our sponsors. Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you, Saman and Hirsch, for joining us today. And thank you to you. You could be anywhere else. We appreciate you spending your time with us today. And thank you for tuning in to High at 9 News. It is America's #1 daily cannabis news show. I think Rico will be back tomorrow, guys.